A lot of people feel that hard support or pause 5 in a ranked game is just a gamble of your MMR. Do you feel the same as well? Well, it will not be the same with this hero and this build. This hero sits at 53% win rate across all brackets, and I'm personally sitting at a 69% win rate in my personal ranked games. And curtain reveal, it's none other than Lich. In this video guide, I will be sharing with you how to play Lich, how to abuse his strengths, and why he's broken. Starting with his kit, some heroes have disables, some heroes have slows, but Lich has both, along with an ultimate which deals insane damage and a frost shield which gives a whooping 45% damage reduction at level 1, which helps your carry survive insanely longer. Starting with his first, Frost Blast. It deals 2 instances of damage, both apply to the primary target to deal a whooping 120 damage at level 1, along with a movement speed slow and an attack speed slow. This is a bread and butter skill to abuse in lane because you can absolutely not lose any trade with this. While you should definitely abuse this skill whenever it's off cooldown, it especially shines whenever you have to trade with the enemy carry or their support, because with the attack speed slow, there's absolutely no way they would be able to fight back and win the trade. And in case they retreat, the movement speed slow also makes them take an extra 3 to 4 hits. As such, the kill potential of this skill is a lot, especially when combined with any stun or slow from your lane partner. Regarding spamming of this skill in lane, you should spam it whenever it's off cooldown, and Lich, because of its innate, usually does not run into a lot of mana issues except in the very early game, and even in that time what you can do is keep a magic stick and a couple of mangoes which you periodically replenish since you gain mana whenever any unit dies. So camp stacks, creeps, denies, etc. combined with early mangoes and sticks can very easily let you spam this skill off cooldown. You can also go for arcane boots, and personally after level 7 I have never encountered a mana issue with Lich. Coming to Frost Shield and the unique strength of Lich, it reduces the attack damage by a whooping 45% at level 1 and a whooping 60 to 70% late game when maxed. Not only that, this also deals damage and applies a slow, giving it both offensive and defensive uses. When comboed with Frost Blast, you can easily achieve 4 seconds of slow from Blast plus 4 seconds of slow from level 1 Frost Shield. By then, the Frost Blast would again be off cooldown, which you can abuse to get a total of 12 seconds of slow. And this is at level 2. What this means is that the kill potential of Lich in lane is insane. With Lich as your lane partner, you should ideally be you should be at par with the enemy lane at worst and should be dominating the lane at best, because with a 12-second slow, any enemy caught off position is absolutely bound to die if you have any supporting damage or stun and slow. A lot of people underestimate how much of our damage reduction makes a difference, and so you can find some clips from my recent games on the screen which show how insane this skill is to keep your carry or offlane alive during a team fight. With Growing Cold, whenever any enemy hero dies under the effect of Frost Shield, the duration is extended by 4 seconds. You also get a talent to increase the Frost Shield duration by 4 seconds, although taking that or not is up to a debate. But essentially, with an Octarian Core and Growing Cold facet, you are able to maintain almost 100% uptime if you get an enemy kill. Now, majority of Dota drafts rely on physical damage carries, and so with you in the backline, spamming this skill non-stop is definitely going to be a massive DPS reduction for their carry. And this lets your team survive, fight back, and actually win the team fight. One small note is that the damage reduction does not work with damage barriers such as Medusa's mana shield, shield rune, etc. So in case your carry or offlane already have these, it might be better to choose some other target for the Frost Shield. Coming up to his third skill, Sinister Gaze. This is a good disable to cancel any TPs in case the enemy is trying to run away. Leveling up a point in lane also allows you to sustain a little bit because it drains their mana. Also, combined with the 12-second slow you have by your first and second skill, pulling the enemy back is absolutely rage worthy. One underestimated thing about this skill is that the area of effect is very huge with Aghanims. So due to this, you're able to pull targets which are very far from you. With Aghanims, this also clumps the enemy team, which is ideal for a lot of team fight abilities such as Black Hole, Chronosphere, Darkseer, Wall of Replica. So you can literally win team fights if you're able to catch a bunch of enemies off guard with this. One cool trick with this spell is because the enemy will be facing you when they're being pulled, you can also force staff them to launch them towards you, where you can easily kill them if you have backup. In this way, it works like Vengeful Swap but better because you retain your position and are not at risk of dying. Another noteworthy fact is that you can pull enemies over cliff with this, which gives it a bunch of uses late game, like pulling them across Roche Pit. Coming to your ultimate, it actually deals a very respectable damage if allowed for its full potential. It bounces 10 times to deal a total of 11 hits. Also, with Chain Frost on Death talent, this also makes Lich super scary if the enemy groups to kill you. Now, one thing I want to make clear is your ultimate is not the main showstopper. If your team is drafting around like, hey, we have Lich and Lich ultimate would be our trump card during the team fights, then you are kind of leaning towards losing the game because Lich ultimate is countered very easily by gameplay changes rather than any item dependencies. The best use of this ultimate is as a follow-up. Remember, you are not the initiator. Your ultimate is in most of the cases not the best initiation tool. Instead, you let your offlane jump in, you let them initiate, you stay in the backline and keep your offlane and carry alive. And when you see that the enemy team is wrapped up in the chaos of the team fight, then you launch this ultimate at them and let it go crazy. Let me explain it a bit more. You keep Lich ultimate as the main trump card for your team. The enemy team will be very wary about you and they will tread very carefully and ensure they do not group up, or if they group up, they waste your ultimate somehow. However, if you draft such that you have another initiator like your offlane, your carry who can jump in, the enemy team would be more worried about them and how to counter their initiation. And what this means is there will be no spotlight on you, so you can just sneak up on them and launch this Chain Frost of Death. This has some compatibility with your Aghanims if you're able to pull multiple enemies, because while they're coming closer to you, they will also be coming closer to themselves, which allows it to bounce much quicker. But it is not something so great that you should go out of your way to purchase an Aghanims for this combo. Also, on higher level, that is level 2 onwards, your ultimate in itself deals a very respectable damage. So you should not be afraid of launching it even if you feel that it will not bounce, because it has a low cooldown and is much more spammable than other ultimates with similar DPS capabilities. Along with this massive damage, this also provides a 65 attack speed and a movement speed slow, which when combined with Frost Blast is around 125 attack speed slow. That is absolutely massive. Any enemy carry, if they have already popped their BKB, simply cannot fight back if they're relying on physical hits. In a way, Lich is a sort of hard counter to enemy lineups where the damage relies on physical hits. Talking a bit about his shard, the Spire gives a 25% movement speed slow, which is respectable. It also launches a Frost Blast at its location when destroyed, which is okay. A lot of players get it so their ultimate bounces off at it, but personally, because the number of bounces are limited to 10 unless you get a kill by your ultimate, I personally do not see it worth being purchased for 1400 gold, because there are a lot of other items that you can get instead. If you want a shard, it is best that you signal and group up your team to take on the Tormentor. One other thing that I want to talk about Lich in general is that you are insanely good at pushing lanes and keeping the pressure off tower. With Frost Shield and Frost Blast on a creep wave, you are able to counter the push very well without being seen for long or being at risk of gank. Further, in case the enemy is sieging a tower, Frost Shield on that makes the tower take very minimal damage for the duration of Frost Shield, allowing your team to group up or team up and counter the push. In your mid to late game, if your carry is not going to be farming the lane, you should absolutely keep the lane pushed because A, it will give you vision of enemy. If an enemy comes to counter push at bot, you know that this hero is at bot and cannot join the team fight at mid. Similarly, this also allows you to perhaps take a tower because the enemy is busy with team fight and not paying attention to their towers. There are a lot of utilities in keeping the lanes pushed unless your carry wants to farm the lanes, of course. Moving to talents, the 125 Frost Blast AoE and damage is massive, and that is more due to the area increase rather than damage. 125 radius increase is absolutely bonkers because with this you will be able to target almost everyone in the team fight with the attack speed slow, which makes it very hard for the enemy to fight back. Compared to the 10% frost shield damage reduction, I feel that it is a very niche skill that you can take if you're dying too much in the fights or dying too quickly, or the enemy damage is or the enemy is simply so fat that they're able to kill your carries even through the frost shield. But all in all, I feel that in 90% of the cases, the frost blast radius and area damage is the talent to go for. For level 15 talent, I feel that minus 3.5 second frost blast cooldown allows you to spam the hell out of it in fights. Now note, this skill has a 4-second duration, and with this talent you are able to spam it every 3.5 seconds and are able to maintain 100% uptime of its debuff. The 0.3 seconds insta gaze duration feels slightly weak to me. Now it can be potentially strong, but that's a niche case. For level 15 talent, I would say that if you're able to survive with a team fight for like 15 to 20 seconds, the frost blast CT reduction is absolutely the way to go. For level 20, this is an easy decision, but you need to think a bit. I would ideally look at my deaths and the enemy lineup and if they have made any items to jump in the backlines. If you are not dying, then chain frost on death gives you absolutely nothing. But the 4-second frost shield duration helps you maintain 100% uptime if you are able to get any kill in the team fight. But that being said, if I feel that the enemy will jump on me or if the enemy will group up to kill me, I mostly go chain frost on death. Realistically, I do get several deaths after mid game, and that's why I almost always go for chain frost on death because it constrains the enemy team to not group up to kill you. For level 25, the 50 HP regen feels a bit weak at this point of game because by the time a Lich as a pause 5 hits 25, the clock is bound to be over 40 minutes, and 50 HP regen does not sound very strong. But the 100 chain frost incremental damage is a whooping 5500 damage increase if your ultimate is allowed at its full potential. At this point, it would be scary to even enemies who have BKB because till late game, the BKB duration would be shortened, and once that BKB runs out, they would be hit with a truckload of damage due to the incremental damage increase of chain frost. For the facet, I feel that Lich in particular is a support hero and has more success playing likewise instead of a damage dealer. Lich can be countered by gameplay changes, and that is why relying on Lich for damage does not seem like a good idea personally. So Evil Eye is not a favorite facet for me. Growing Cold, on the other hand, you are able to extend a frost shield if any unit dies under the effect. You are also able to extend your ultimate if a hero dies by ultimate. Unlike Frost Shield, you need to get the kill by your ultimate for it to be increased. But for the Frost Shield uptime alone, Growing Cold seems a lot worth it than Evil Eye for me. Now, coming to skill level up, level 1, almost always having a point in Frost Blast allows you to trade effectively. The only exception is if you are able to get your carry a First Blood, which gives them some boost because level 2 would be quick to come. Now, for Lich, your skill build until you're 7, 8 or until the entire early game is dictated by your lane dynamics as well as your need to rotate. In most of my games, I take a point in Frost Blast at level 1 and then Frost Shield at level 2 to get the insane slow combo as well as survival increase for my carry because 45% DPS reduction is insane at level 1. In most of your bread and butter games, you will be maxing Frost Blast early so that you have some damage and trade potential, but if the lane is not going good, you should definitely prioritize Frost Shield to keep your carry alive. Somewhere down the line, before level 6, I do take a point in E as well because A, that is a disable to cancel TPs, and B, it allows me to sustain mana in lane without burning a lot of cash on Mango. That being said, In most of my games, I level up Frost Blast first to maximum, followed by Frost Shield and Sinister Gaze being the last. But if at any point you feel that in the current fight or in next fight, any other spell would be much better to have, then you should definitely take that. Because even a spell like Sinister Gaze, which just gets a 0.3 second increase on level up, can be game changing due to the distance it pulls the target. Now, for the item build, I personally dislike dagger and damage build on Lich and instead prefer to have a support build on him. As a support, your role is to stay back, spam your spells, and make sure your carry lives. In the laning phase, I get a stick, mango, wards, blood grenade until an eventual boot before level 6. On the boot choice, I mostly prefer arcane boots because it allows me as well as my team to spam spells more freely. Plus, it can also be built into a Greaves in case your POS 4 or POS 3 are not getting it. After your boots, you should go for 2 support items at minimum. If your team is more on the initiation side or winning, you can get some offensive items such as Solar Crest, Spirit Vessel, Lotus Orb. Also, while I'm not a fan of aura items on Lich because you have to stay at the back line and not in middle of the team fight, you can also get an early Valdemir's if your team is pushing for an early end. On the defensive items, you can always get a Holy Locket, a Glimmer, a Force Staff, and in some cases an Eagles. Among all of these items, you should look at the enemy draft, their play, as well as your team and ask yourself, what does your team need more? Do you need more heals? Do you need some protection from magic damage? Do you need some auras? Do you need some smoke? Wards? This should be the thing that dictates your item choice. After this, in most of my games, I also grab an Aether Lens for the cast range increase because this allows me to stay further backline and cast my spells, which very directly and indirectly leads to higher survivability for me. For the luxury items that you can get for Lich, in case your team does not need any more support items or needs you to step up to help close the game, you can get an Ignims for the area of for the AoE Sinister Gaze. If the team fights are slightly dragging long, you can also get an Octarian Core to spam your spells more often. But if you feel that a team fights are decided more quickly, like 15 to 20 seconds only, you can get a Refresher instead to simply double spam your spells and quickly end the fight. Now, especially in lower MMR, one thing I notice is a lot of people do not get break when you absolutely should. Like the enemy team can have Spectre or Bristleback who are insanely tanky with their passives but very easy to kill if you apply break on them. If you see that nobody in your team is getting an item, which is typical in low MMR, you can also get a Khanda to apply break and have those targets finished off quickly. I usually advise against getting a pipe on Lich because you have to stay backline. I instead prefer having a Glimmer for the invisibility as well as the magic damage barrier. But if nobody in your team is getting a pipe, then you absolutely should. But again, this is not an item I would personally recommend you to build, and you should always ask your offlane or POS 4 to get this. For the neutral item, tier 1, tier 2, you can frankly get any item which suits the lane dynamic or the rotation or the current gameplay. Tier 3, I feel that Gale Storm as well as Whisper of the Wind are good choices. Tier 4, Blood Ride due to the AoE increase is massive, especially if you have an Ignims. Monocall is also good for the cast range increase, allowing you to be further at the backline and staying alive for a longer time in team fights. In tier 5, Undying Helm is the best item that you can get right now for all heroes. If that is not available, you can also get Book of Dead for the true side or otherwise Fallen Sky, which can act as a pseudo blink for you. For the enchantments in tier 2 or 3, I almost always get the gold per minute so that I can get the support items needed by the team, since as a POS 5 you will not be actively farming. If GPM is not available, cast range is the next preference, and if cast range is also not available, then frankly you can choose any of the enchantments that suit you. In tier 5, cast range or CD reduction are great enchantments to have. For tier 4, you can frankly pick any of them which suits you. Now, what does Lich do in a game? Early game, in the laning phase, you should definitely win your lane and give your carry a very safe and good farm. But in case that is not possible, you should at least be at par with the enemy in the lane. That is, you should not be losing lane. Lich is a very good support for a lane matchup, and losing lane as a Lich means that you should definitely download the replay and see what went wrong. Mid game is all about stacking camps for your carry if they are going to get it. In case they are not going to take the stacks or are unable to, then I would not recommend stacking camps. Warding should be done as per objective. If your team prefers dragging the game late, then you should do a defensive warding. If your team wants to end early or keep the snowballing up and running, you should ward offensive with a smoke. For support items, you are the guy to get sentries as well as smoke in your team, so definitely purchase them. Mid game, in a sense, is all about your stacking, your warding, as well as your positioning. You should aim to be there when the team fight happens. You should always stick around teammates who you think will be the hunt targets of enemy. Being absent from early game fights can potentially be a game losing disaster for Lich. Moving on to allies and enemies, almost everybody likes and can use Lich as a support, but carries who can jump and kill, especially like Phantom Assassin, Luna, Juggernaut, Sniper, Slark, Troll, Ursa, Weaver, or even Spectre really appreciate Lich. Juggernaut with Lich is absolutely crazy in the sense that you're able to slow the enemy for so long that he can blade storm to his heart's content. Even in offlane, Abaddon, Beastmaster, Sand King, Magnus, Marcy, Centaur, Bristleback, almost all offlanes can use Lich because of the insane survival boost you provide even with a single level in Frost Shield. That being said, any lane matchup where your lane partner can score a kill on your slows is favorable because it is easier to get kills and win the lane. In this sense, Lich is an easy hero to play and good for new players because Lich does not need any enabler or a combo hero to achieve his full potential. Lich can pretty much independently provide a lot of value to the team. And if you're going with the item builds I recommended, almost everybody loves a Solar Crest or a Glimmer Cake. That being said, some heroes deserve a special mention. With Grimstroke Ultimate, you launch 2 Chain Frost instead of 1, and with Refresher, that would be 4. His ultimate Soulbind also prevents those 2 enemies from scattering away, so this is definitely a spell of doom for them. Darkseid is also able to clump the enemies and prevent them from escaping, and hence has a very good compatibility with your ultimate. Techies, after his latest changes to Minefield Sign, is also very compatible with Lich because then the enemies would be stuck between either running and taking damage from Minefield or sticking and taking damage from your ultimate and dying anyway. If you think you need a larger list or a tier list of what heroes work with Lich and what won't, you can comment and I will definitely put one up. Now, counters of Lich. So this is one beauty of Lich. There is no hard counter as such that, hey, the enemy team has this hero and now Lich is useless. Lich as a hero is countered by gameplay, which is a good thing at lower MMRs but might be a bad thing at higher MMRs. That being said, you will definitely not love any enemy who can jump in the backline or snipe you. Somebody like a Nyx, a CK pulling you, a sniper, a PL or Spirit Breaker rushing to you, so on and so forth. Also, Nullifier removes Frost Shield, so you will definitely not like any Nullifier builder as well or any Dispellers in general. Blade Mail can also early game lead to deaths. In particular, I feel Silencer is a good counter for Lich because with his ultimate he can prevent you from spamming the spells and be useless for the next 6 to 8 seconds. Another notable counter is because with Frost Shield, you tend to keep your carries alive and you tend to keep the fight going for longer. A Slark can be scary in enemy team because he gets the time to ramp up on his stacks if not focused down quickly. Then there are also some heroes who can very easily waste your ultimate, like Phantom Lancer, Darkseer with his Surge, Storm Spirit, Anti-Mage and Queen of Pain with their Blinks, or any support with Force Staff, Invisibility and Lotus. Now, since Frost Shield only works on attack damage, one can say that nukers like Ogre, Lion, Lina, Outworld Destroyer are all hard counters for Lich. But I somewhat disagree here. And here's why. While they do bypass your main strength of survivability increase by Frost Shield, they can only rely on magic damage to do so. And this is very easy to shut down for your team. You are forcing the enemy team to play magic to be able to win team fight. This is something that is very easily countered by proper item builds in your team. For example, one Mage Slayer on your carry and the enemy magic damage is already reduced by 40%. Your offlane or position 4 can get a pipe. They can get an ethereal shroud. There are a lot of items to reduce magic damage so much that the enemy will fail to win team fights if they rely primarily on magic damage. So all in all, Lich is a hero with which you can spam spells and you can absolutely destroy any draft which relies on physical hits for damage, which is like 70% of the Dota drafts in general, and secure its sweet MMR very easily. All you have to focus on is to get proper support items that your team needs. Most of the times, if you're losing a game, it would be because either A, you did not get the proper support item, perhaps you needed a glimmer but you got a solar crest. With Lich, it's all about which item I have to get next to support my team and to counter the enemy team, and that is all. There is no must buy item or some item to get your spike, because even though Lich is able to deal a lot of damage, he is not reliant on items to reach his potential. He is reliant on gameplay and making his team succeed. So just sit back, stay alive, spam your spells, keep your carry alive, and get that sweet MMR with Lich. So that's all for this guide, guys. Let me know if you want a few replays or games where I showcase Lich, or if you would want a guide on a different hero. Let me know in the comments. Gamebugs signing off.